My presentation. Planet Sasquatch, of course, is my YouTube channel that I've had for almost a year as of next month. And I also now have a Facebook group called Planet Sasquatch. And that usually is cover any of our research from Barb or myself. We usually post. And anybody else has individual research, they can go ahead and post their pictures and things that they found and make comments. You can't really do that on the YouTube channel, except to give comments and things like that with the videos. Brief personal background. I want to go through some basics about myself. I was born in Kentucky. I lived in several places in North Carolina for a while. Settled back in Tacoma in 2000. I've been here this is my fourth time into Tacoma, to Washington State over my entire lifetime. And I came back for the final time in 2002. I still have a home in Tacoma, but I did move to Greenwater. I bought a cabin with some property. First I bought an RV and stayed in a rental spot, and I finally bought a lot in Greenwater 2 years ago. And I've been a researcher for the past 2 years, and very, very actively doing it right now. Trying to juggle the day job, the night job, everything you can possibly imagine to keep up with the stuff. And I have her to thank. Everybody knows Barb and Gabby. She's the one that helped me get me started. She gave me the impetus to think about this a little bit, and I was going to help her with some of the stuff, to help take pictures or come up with devices to try to capture. I didn't know better at the time, but as slowly as I started having my own personal experiences, I made the switch over when I attended the Sasquatch Summit last year in Ocean Shores. I decided I got to get my own channel. I need to start posting my research. So that's when I started really what I call the launch for that. And here's the same picture we saw earlier. This is Greenwater Squatchers, and I even include Patrick on the end as part of that group, regardless if he doesn't think he is.
Honorary. You just want me to take Max.
Oh, okay. Actually, I did post that on Facebook. That was Matt posting that picture, so I couldn't Photoshop it or anything. It was his posting. And that's of course Bob Gemla in the middle and everything. It was a nice little photo shoot down at the Habituation conference back in March. So I'm going to just cover something I think. I do have a lot of videos, pictures, and sounds, vocalizations, but I do want to cover something really quick. A lot of people will go what I call the stalk and gawk technique of finding Bigfoot and Sasquatch, where they'll keep going to different areas and then they'll stalk them like hunters do. Well, you know what? If you're lucky to get one blurry blob squatch picture out of it, and they make a big deal about that. But if you want regular contact with the Sasquatch and you want them to get in your head and actually start feeding you thoughts, like mind speak and everything, and I know that I had that happen to me as well, because there's a lot of things that I know that I didn't know before. It's just like been put in my head. It's by means of habituation, and it does work. I decided what I did, put a list of things that you might want to try to get on that path. The first one was find a wooded area and look for evidence that they're actually there. Now they're all over the place, but especially think in terms of a wooded area that is connected to other areas. In other words, they have easy access to large areas of forest. And also water seems to be a big deal. Like it's always in close proximity to water or a lake or a river. Especially up in the Greenwater area, right now the salmon had been coming back up the stream, and they had been the Sasquatches have been frequenting the areas like along the White River and the Huckleberry Creek, I guess. The next thing, once you see some maybe stick structures or something that gives you a clue about this, and that's something you might want to kind of study from other people's sites, then you want to kind of visit that area on a regular basis. And so you want to go there. You just basically want to go up there and just observe the area. Sit down, bring a lunch, whatever. Just go out there on a regular basis and demonstrate your respect for the area. Behave yourself and don't litter. Don't go up there and start hollering and hooping and doing all sorts of things and then really, make humanity proud. We don't want to do that. We want to show that we have a respect for the area, and we're not pulling trees down or cutting trees down unnecessarily or anything like that. And 4, you can start a gifting area, but use common sense when you're doing so. That has a lot to do with don't feed the bears. And we get that remark sometimes from people. You got to know the area. First of all, is there a bear in the area or small creatures? The thing you're trying to do is to narrow down the possibility that it is the Sasquatch taking your gifts and not just animals going in there and ravaging your gifts. So it makes sense sometimes to keep them sealed in jars, whether it's peanut butter, like seal them in glass jars, and sometimes putting them in baskets overhead. That's as far as food items. You can leave other kinds of gifts that are coming from the heart that they would appreciate too. And that's a good thing to start doing and documenting. The other thing that seemed to help me a lot was to play a musical instrument while I was in the area. And when I started taking the flute out there and the dulcimer, I'd just sit and play, I started noticing an increase of activity just on the basis of that alone. So they do enjoy music, and I've heard that from a lot of different people. So there's something to keep in mind. Maybe even if you want to bring, I wouldn't suggest bringing like an iPod with one of these blasters and doing heavy metal or anything like that. It would probably be a good idea to maybe some softer Indian music, flute music, or something like that. And 6, learn to listen carefully and pay attention to the changing stick glyphs and structures. We go out all the time. When you go out all the time, make a mental note of what's on the trail, what's on the side of the trail. Are there X structures? Are they changing over time? Are they becoming asterisks? And what we're finding is when we're going up the trail now, they are leaving a tremendous amount of stick structures, or when they're on the ground, we just simply call them glyphs. And they have a pattern, and it's an intelligent pattern. So we can't seem to make a lot of headway yet on the meaning, aside from the fact that we can identify them as a glyph provided by them, or perhaps other creatures. So learn to listen, because the other thing about listening is being able to sit there quietly and start to hear things that you wouldn't normally hear. A lot of times the human we're a very distractible race, and we need to learn to kind of hear nature, hear the sounds that are being made in nature. Or why are the birds being alarmed? Is there something coming down the trail? So you start to pick up on all this, and pretty soon you'll be able to hear that real faint grunt or some other sound like a whistle that's over in this direction, and you'll be able to distinguish that from just simply an animal doing it. Okay? Do not leave recording devices other than what you personally carry on you regularly. It seems like, and that's just my personal opinion, okay? The thing is, we haven't had good success with just simply leaving a recorder at a gifting area or anything like that. They don't seem to be if you're going out in the woods all the time and you carry something with you all the time, like you're always out there with a camera hanging on your hanging from you or whatever. I'm not talking about an infrared camera, I'm just talking about a regular camera. Or you're carrying one of those small recording devices with you and you have it on while you're going through there, then that's normal behavior for you. You're not trying to deceive them, making you think that they don't know what you're up to. So the thing is, be honest about it, and if you're going to carry it on your person. And 8, remember, you are in their home, and as such you need to act like a guest. Be patient. It takes a while to gain their trust in you. And that's something that I've worked very hard at trying to do. I don't want to screw up the relationship out in Greenwater, and Barb and myself have engendered with the Sasquatch clan that actually lives out there. So these are what I consider the important points. Now I'd like to go on to some of the actual neat stuff now. Back The more famous things that happened last year was the cloaking Bigfoot, or what appeared to be a cloaking Bigfoot. And I'm going to go ahead and play the video that did, what I did sometime later, I did an analysis, because everybody said it was an alien, had a big head, or had big eyes, and things like that. So I decided to go ahead and put together my analysis, so let's go ahead and watch that.
Get it really hard and really fast right in the middle to break it there, to not break these smaller pieces that are supporting it at either
Yeah,
end.
that had been, you know,
Yeah,
like a thrust and not a hang, you know what
yeah,
I'm saying? 'Cause
something
they
hard
don't
and
know how to
fast.
bring it on time.
What the heck was that? Did you see that?
Sam's been checking it out.
What the heck is it? There's something taken off.
For some reason, I'm not getting any. It was working fine when I did it the other day.
Up right there, did you see that?
There you go.
I just saw something small and black take off that way, fast. Boy, I hope it was on camera.
Okay, this is the slow version, so I went ahead and kind of zoomed in a little bit, so each time I'm doing it, I'm zooming a little bit closer. And you'll see, like right around here, there's a black spot. See that black spot? Watch that black spot right there. It drops. You get out of your way.
Yeah, I just watched that the other day, it was real interesting. Your analysis.
This one, yeah. What I'm going to show, what I'm trying to show you, okay, right here, I'm going to put the outline around it, and what you want to do is, I'm going to go back and forth with it as you're watching that, and you'll see what I'm talking about, what's actually moving and what isn't. See that?
Mm-hmm.
You see the little fella, his black head up there at the top, it looks like clothing or something like a robe. You see his head popping out there, but the rest of it's kind of a greenish matching the... Now, if the cloak is really a piece of cloth, I don't know. You know. So you see it hunching back and forth. So there's at least two right there, and there were others as well. So, all right, now I'm going to cover something else was happening down here in her video, and I noticed that something was moving. So there's the highlighted area, and I'm going to start zooming in there and showing you what's going on there. I don't know if you can see it very well with there's an object moving down there. I don't know if you can see it through the screen. It's kind of right there. Okay, see that? See the rock moving back and forth? See that? And there's a figure. See, there's a head right there, and it's like pulling it back and forth, whatever it is. Now here's a close-up of it. See it? You can see the movement here. See that black area?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't know what that is. I'm assuming it was one of the other Sasquatches that were actually sitting there, oblivious to what was going on when the cloaker took off. So we've got the figure that's right here, and I'm going to show a comparison picture. This is the same spot right here that he was sitting in, and what I'm going to do is simply compare the two pictures and kind of show you. You'll see the branches are the same in both the comparisons. Okay, so here's the same branch coming down like that right there. You see this is nothing there, but here he is sitting right here. You have the dark spot right there, right in the same spot. Okay.
There's a little hollow down in there.
Yeah.
I like a little hollow.
So that was that. Now, that was on. I remember the date specifically. That was on. I'll go look up the clock up there so I can pay attention to the time. On September 11th of 2014 is when we spotted that cloaking Bigfoot, and Barb videotaped. Whatever was the term, we took a video of it. Okay. Now I decided and Barb said it was around 10 o'clock in the morning on the 12th, which was the very next day. I decided not to bring any recording equipment with me whatsoever, so I decided to go up. Since I mentally gave myself the intention, I want to have an experience. I want to be able to have a Sasquatch come up to me. I don't want to record it. I don't want to do anything of the nature. I just want the experience. You know, I want to be able to have, because I was so enthralled by what we saw the day before. So I went up the trail. The wind was kind of blowing, so I passed this little area that we call the Field of Dreams. It's where all this takes place. It's like about several hundred yards in a circle in a field area surrounded by ridges and streams and everything else, but it's kind of a clearing there. So I walked along the trail, went through the field of dreams, went past it, didn't see anything, but all of a sudden I got to the end and I started walking backwards, or I started coming back around, and I'm starting to feel like really joyous, like a exuberant, or I don't know the description of like high in that manner, you know. And I was saying hello to the trees and the flowers, and just really being an obscene flower child at this point or something, you know. So I started coming down the trail, and the wind was blowing a little bit, and I was greeting the forest people wherever they may have been. So I'm walking down the trail like this, and all of a sudden I look over to the right, and I'm seeing some bright lights. And I'm thinking, the sun was shining through there, and I'm thinking, you know, that's really bright reflection. I thought it was a piece of metal there off the side of the trail, or something was causing like a edge of light to kind of come back. But as I got closer to it, there was no edge. It was in the middle of the air. And it wasn't just one light, it was 4 separate lights. And the lights were formed like Z's. There were 4 of them to form like a rectangular box, but everything else was invisible, that the whole thing was suspended. So I'm looking at that and saying, you don't see that every day. You know, your mind kind of like, okay, that's kind of awesome. What am I going to do now? Well, the first thing was I'm not going to get any closer to it, obviously, because I don't know where I'm going to go, or if it'll kill me, or something will like shoot out like electricity or whatever. And so I'm pondering about this, so I'm walking slowly past it, and it's keeping its perspective on the trail, so it's stationary. So as you're walking this way, the lines kind of have that 3D look to it as you're walking past it. So I get up like this and turn my head for 1 second, and then the following thing happens. And what I didn't have recording equipment with me, but I was able to use something to put together a simulation, basically, that's, in my opinion, really accurate, like 95% accurate of what I saw. So this is the video I did. So I'm walking down the trail, and that's what I saw, and it was pulsating. Then I turned my head back around, and then all of a sudden, this appeared. Looked just like this, but it probably was electrical around it. It was kind of like lights coming off of it as well, but it had an orange glow. And as it went inside this thing, it just kind of phased out, just like that. And I really wanted an experience with the Sasquatch, but hey, I'll settle for a light portal and an orb any day. Well, that changed me, because it was like, how many times do you see something like that? Think about it. You know, I kind of alluded to it. I didn't post a video about it for a while, and then Matt, and what's so funny, just the sheer coincidence, Matt was talking about something similar to that a month before, and he kept it hush-hush with the group a year ago, remember that? And then all of a sudden this happens. So I don't know, but it's not the same portal like what Matt's experienced at all, you know. So that was kind of really getting my blood boiling, and was getting me more active after this happened. That was during our camp out there. The first Barb and Gabby camp out that I attended was actually their second one, you know, back in September. Okay. So what I didn't have nothing except my description of it, and of course the simulation. This is what I did find. Look at this. Now, anybody who's been on my channel, has been keeping up with the stuff, knows, you know, most of this is just a rehash of that. But it was a perfect triangle, and the ground was completely seared. Look at all the vegetation surrounding it. But it was completely seared around this area, to the point where there was no vegetation. It was just plain dirt, and where the roots had come up out of the ground a little bit, it was shaved clean. It's almost like someone took a laser or whatever it was. Let's say it was a portal that was right over this spot. Whatever was in the field went away with the portal. So it's like some of the debris got caught up in the field, and wherever dimension or whatever it went to, it was gone. It was fascinating. And of course, that was only, this picture is from the 28th, so we're only talking about 16 days or 2 weeks later. It's since grown back, and I have basically a glyph I left, which is a triangle interlaced with it. So I use it as a symbol of connection, so it's kind of a marker for me as a reminder. Okay. Okay, so let me jump into something real quick. You know, I started using a cell phone to take pictures and things like that, and I did get some pictures of squatches with the cell phone. Okay, and this is the one I used, which was a Motorola Thunderbolt rather. And the problem with the cell phone though is it's only got 8 megapixel camera resolution. Well, what does that mean? You all know what the megapixels are in the camera, or what it really means? It just means the clarity. If you take a picture with this camera and you were to go in your computer and zoom in to certain areas of that photo, how far in could you zoom into a section of the photo before all of a sudden you start seeing little square blocks, what they call pixels? That's what it is. So that's all I had to start with. And then I decided I need something better, and you'll see an example of what I'm talking about here. I need to be able to, some of the pictures I'm taking, I'm finding the squatches in a very small area of the picture. So in order for me to get better results, because I don't want people accusing me of this, it's just a blob you're taking a picture of, I don't know what it is. So I may get even a better camera, even because I've been using this one since December, the Nikon D3300, and it's got 24 megapixels. That means 3 times as much. That means I can zoom in 3 times further into a picture before it starts turning into little blocks and squares. So I can really see detail in a face or a body or anything else in the picture. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. If you look here, this is the old, and you can tell this is a Squatch sitting here. And that's pretty evident, but you can't see very much detail in the face or anything like that. Now, look at this. I zoomed in even further, and look what I got with that. I can even see the branches pretty clear. And this guy has actually got his arm behind his head. It's kind of relaxing there. I'm going to be covering him in a minute. So I want to make that point because anybody in this room is serious about squatching. You need to also be familiar with the tools that will help you, assist you to get the better results. Okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and go into some pictures that I've taken. And this one's, and I'm doing this in chronological order, so since the last time I gave a presentation for Team Squatchin back at the community center back in March, I believe. So February, March, I don't remember exactly. But this is all the stuff that's happened since that wasn't included in the last presentation. Okay, so I call this the Creekside Squatch, December 21st. So using my new camera, this is a picture I took. And what I done was and for some reason I just have a feeling. If I take pictures of this is the Field of Dream area I was talking about along the creek. And so later, in front of my computer, that's when the magic starts. So I start looking, what I do start looking for is little dark areas on the photo. And I've trained my eyes well enough where I could actually see a dark area that does not belong in the photo. In other words, I see background, there's shadows, there's shades, but this color of black, and there's different shades of black, stands out. Okay? So I found this little spot over here, and let's go ahead and see if we can zoom in a little bit. So you can't see very well here because on the computer it's a lot better. without having to, I wish we had like a regular screen here. But right here, it's rounded on the top, okay? Let's see if we get a little bit better. Okay, can we see anything better here? Zoom in closer. I don't know why it's, okay. I don't know why we're getting some distortion. Hang on, let me back up here. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. Right here, see that? Look at that rounded black area. Okay. I added some brightness so you can see it better. But if you look carefully, I can see the two eyes and the nose right here. You see that? You see the eyes? Let's see if we get a little bit closer. Now do you see the eyes?
Yeah, you see the nose.
Yep.
Wow.
Not only that, you see, okay, so see the head is larger, you see the light skin, so they're kind of like clear faced right here. But there's their brow right here, and this is the little guy actually. So he's got the little pug nose here, and he's got his two eyes. Okay? Now, what I also do is photo comparison, so I'll come back later and take a picture, and then I'll start zooming into the same area. And this is the same spot. Okay? How do I know that? Because look at the original picture. Here's the zoomed in, the after. Notice what I look for is the similar tree patterns. Here's a big round spot here. Here's the way some of the branches are coming across like this. That's how I position my photos. So I know exactly, like I'm not looking at a different area. So go back here. I see it right here. I don't see it on the other one. Let's put them side by side and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Here, it's a little dark. Something's wrong with the projector. It's, for some reason I'm getting darker effect on the side, but here's the Squatch. See that? See that knot right there in the wood? See that knot in the wood? See it's lined up with that? What do you see over here? Is there anything there? No, it's not. It moved. All right, here's the next Squatch. That another picture I took up there in the same area a little bit later, January 7th. I call it the Sasquatch relaxing by the creek. You just saw that when I was talking about the camera. Well, let's take a look at some of the things that were around it before I took the main picture. This is an area where Barb started original gifting area, and it is just chock full of stick structures, like you can't believe. And this is one example of them. Notice how they're all setting up and crisscross and everything, like a small teepee arrangement right here, and then you got some structuring over here. So I decided a typical teepee structure. I actually saw a gigantic one down in the Blue Mountains where we had a lot of Squatch activity as well. But this is just right at her gifting area. Check that bridge out. How many trees do you know of that actually just fall in the creek and do this? You know, it doesn't happen very often. So this is actually something they built. Matter of fact, when I showed Barb this, she said, I didn't notice that before. And I said, yeah, I just found it out, you know, because she'd been back there in the creek and hadn't seen that. So it was actually placed there. All right, so then we come to what I call the jungle gym. And this looks like some of the bars. You go on these kids' playgrounds, you know, where it looks like a dome. It's got all the different rods and things like that where kids can play. That's what this kind of looks like. So I was looking at these pictures, and especially this one, and I was doing my, I wonder what my computer can tell me about this picture. So I started taking a closer look at it, and then I saw the dark spot right there. I said, something's up in this little square. Let's take a closer look. And I start zooming in, and then all of a sudden something starts to get a little clearer. There's something there. Come a little bit closer. Are you all starting to see it? You see anything? You guys can speak up if you want. I mean,
It looks like a monkey.
yeah, this one does actually.
Oh yeah, like almost like a baboon.
See? Check that out. So we have, there he is. You see his body? Actually, that's his hand. He's holding some kind of jar or something white with a top on it. This is actually vegetation. He's got the tree in front of his face, but there's definitely two eyes, the head, and an arm. He's doing this trick. See how he's positioned. So he's holding the white thing. He's got his arm behind it like that, and he's kicked back like that's why I call him a relaxing squatch. Yeah, but a little bit closer. Let's add a little brightness and sharpness. Does that help a little bit? And it honestly, this cloth for a screen isn't giving it justice like you can on a computer screen. All of this is available on the Planet Sasquatch YouTube channel, so you can find this and take a look at it. So here's the eyes. You got his arm and his head's pretty definite. So this is a younger guy. And we have tons of juveniles that hang out, and they're not intimidated, especially since I've been out there a lot. They just kind of sit there while I'm taking pictures. They don't figure, I don't think they really truly appreciate how meticulous I'm trying to go in and see them, and if they knew that, if they wouldn't show up anymore. I don't want to tell them that, but I'm pretty sure they figured it out already, that I'm getting these kind of pictures. You don't really get these kind of pictures on the internet. You get things that are a lot darker and use some blurs, you know, and I try to get away from that a little bit. So there's the outline. This was actually provided by Tom, who's another Facebook user, who decided to furnish this for me so you can get an idea of it. I mean, you probably didn't even need that to be able to see the figure anyway. Some people did. So I went ahead and did, here's the original photo, so he's sitting right back there. I see him right there. Okay? And then I provide, I'm zooming into the original picture. Now here's a comparison picture. Now look how the trees are. You can now see this tree. Let's see how I got these these limbs here like that. See? They're the same. Also keep in mind this log laying here like that. Watch that log right there, and here's the original. He's sitting right here, and here's that log. So what we want to look in the comparison picture, we want to look at something right above that log. Okay, there's that log, and there's nothing there. Okay? Actually, I zoomed in here before, and I have a close-up of that. And you can see, here's the limb, and here's where he's sitting, and there's absolutely nothing there in that same area.